So here we have a directive that makes an element, a jQuery element, into a sortable, and then listens for the start and stop events when we start and stop dragging the element around. To demonstrate, here we have the to-do list, and when we start moving around, notice that the console displays the starting position 0, and when we drop it, it displays the position 4. So we have that. What we'd like to be able to do is capture these starting and ending position and then send them to the server so that we can update the position on the server. So let's create here a variable that keeps track of the starting position. Maybe we start with an invalid position here so that we can tell that it hasn't been set yet, -1. And then store the position right here in the start and the end variables. Right? Once we have these positions, what we could do is pass these values to some controller that can then pass the data back to the server. Right? So to be able to declare a controller, we can inside of the directive we can use the controller attribute that configures the configuration object of the directive, and then give it a function here, right? So we can say, utility controller, right? Or maybe sortable controller, right? And then implement that controller in a separate function, like function sortable controller. Right, and in here we can maybe pass in the controller the values of start and end. So start, end. Oh no, wait a minute. Start, end. Yeah. So there. So we have the functions here. We can declare maybe a function that can be called from the controller. Right, maybe provide here a var, a VM that can be called this, right, and then tie a callback function to the instance of the controller, such as maybe sort, right, as a function that can take as argument the start and the end, and then notify maybe the service or something. So here we can say console log the start, and so start and end here, right? So from the linker, we like to when it stops, when we would like to use that controller, the sortable controller, by name, right? So that it can be referenced from inside of the stop. You can say something like sortable controller dot sort, right? And we can pass it the start and the end arguments to pass it to the service. Okay, but the sortable controller is not readily available from inside the linker. To make it available, we need to create a scope. Okay, declare the scope, right? And then the controller will be available as part of the scope variable here in the scope. So then we're going to be able to say scope and then the name of the controller. So this is the implementation, but then we can say by what name do we want it to be referred to in elsewhere. So we can say I want to be referred, maybe we could just use the same exact name, so sortable controller. So in the scope, there's going to be an entry point called sortable controller inside of the scope object here. So we can say scope. This will be scope dot sortable controller, and then we can pass it the start and the end. Right. So if we refresh this, right, and we start moving this around, and we'll let it go. Notice that at the position 36, right, inside of our sortable controller, their sort function has displayed the start and the end, right? Notice that now only when we stop dragging, right? Notice that this should be 4 and 0 maybe. There we go. Yeah, 4 and 0. Or this would be maybe position 1, and then we let it go here. This should be 3 maybe. Yeah, there we go, 1 and 3. So there we have it. So we have the controller now responding to events, drag and drop events happening on the UI, right? And then perhaps passing it on to a service that can then send it to a server.